Vish Baliga, Chief Product Officer at SAP Fieldglass, joins us today in this session of the HRTech Talk by HRTech Series to discuss more on how AI is changing the overall HR and HR tech game. Vish, it's so good to have you here joining us in this conversation. It's been an exciting time for everyone in HR, especially for HR tech innovators, because there's so many changing habits when it comes to what's in demand, when it comes to the kind of tools that HR teams need today, and also when it comes to the way HR as a function is changing and how new age technology is impacting all of this change. So I think this is set to be a very exciting conversation. Thank you for taking the time to do this with us. Why don't you take us through your journey in B2B tech and SAP Field Glass before we dive in?
Okay, thank you, Parama, for having me on this. It's a pleasure to talk to you and discuss some of the things we've been doing at SAP Fieldglass. To begin with, my background a little bit. I have been in the space in the tech industry for about 35 years now. The part of the Fieldglass journey, which we'll probably talk about today, has been for the last 25 years. I was part of the founding team for SAP Fieldglass, and I ran product engineering and hosting and cloud ops and security and all so on. In 2014, we got acquired by SAP, and since then, I run the product and engineering portfolio for SAP Fieldglass. I also have a background in HR because before joining this, I was doing PeopleSoft implementations and customizing PeopleSoft for large customers in the late 90s. And then that's my exposure to HR pre-Fieldglass.
That's very interesting to know because I think it's very important to know how HR functions to be within the role so that you understand what kind of technology lags or technology needs are important or crucial in today's environment. So I think that's very interesting. Maybe we'll dive into that a little deeper. But what we'd really like to know about is more about SAP Fieldglass's recent workforce optimization innovations and how it's been a game changer for end users today.
Yeah, as you know, much of the things that happen in terms of innovation these days in the last, let's say, 12 to 18 months has to do something with AI, right? So AI becomes kind of the front and center for many things, and that's what we've been also doing. Oh, we're also doing other things, not just all AI related, but primarily AI and using SAP's chatbot technology, Joule, is what we try to do to help our users to navigate and do things much more simpler and easily without need to know the systems in and out. So most of the focus has been in trying to say how can we simplify the user's experience, primarily with ability to do things like navigation, things like simple tasks which are repeated, but for somebody who's coming in occasionally, how do we help them, guide them, and get the task done without them having to know the full system and the landscape of the system navigation elements? So that's something we did. In addition, what we have is things like integrations using what we call SAP Intelligent Technologies. And this is where we take Fieldglass, which is, as you know, is a solution for managing external labor and statements of work, which is non-employee labor that the company uses. Obviously, there's a lot of synergies on two sides of what Fieldglass does with procurement and with HR. So with HR, which is the primary focus today, we need kind of the ability to simplify the user's experience when it comes to terms of onboarding the procured worker, making their activities that they need to do before they come in. How do we simplify that? How do we even help with the selection of the candidate by taking resume matching, resume ranking, fitting the job description to the position that is being sought, right? Those kind of things is what we've been focusing on. And in addition to this is also the ability to leverage the data that is produced between a non-employee and employee and do analytics on that. So we've delivered some new capability in terms of combining these analytics and creating dashboards that a user can go in, look at what skills are being used, where are they located in the company, if they're a multinational company, where do we have skills of pockets of needs, right? So you can do the matching of where skill is available, where you need to hire them, where do you use external workforce, and where you should be doing with employees. All those kind of things kind of become very interesting with the capabilities we are delivering.
So when anyone talks about HR tech today in this evolving time that we're in, it's very evident that AI and Gen AI is changing the scope rapidly. So, like you said, I think a lot of tools like yours are focusing on AI based matching today,
Mhm.
as well as
Mhm.
a lot of AI based protocols when it comes to even the internal systems, kind of like guiding you, telling you what to do. And I think it's very important in the larger scope to ensure there's the proper automation and human balance. So there's so much worry about, there's a candidate, there's a sense of worry even among candidates. How do I optimize my own files or my CVs to ensure that the AI picks up, puts me in front of the list?
Yeah,
And there's a lot of thought in this space about what job seekers need to do. On the
right,
other hand, also a lot of chatter about what HR teams themselves need to do to ensure they're not just leaving everything to the tool. While it's easier, while it
yeah,
probably helps a hiring manager skim through large quantities of data and CVs quickly, better than before, so that and then they're probably just leaving it to the tool to ensure that you're skimming and going and putting the best in front of the actual decision maker. But that's not always the case. That's
right,
not essentially what is happening yet. So
yeah.
diving deeper, how are you seeing Gen AI, not just at SAP Fieldglass when you're innovating over there, but how is it changing the hiring cycle, and especially for the entire talent cycle, the talent management, procuring everything, and HR function? What do teams as well as people seekers from the outside of a brand? What do both parties need to do to ensure they can have this balanced, optimized use of HR tech, AI, as well as respect what they're supposed to do as humans in the system?
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation where I think AI and Gen AI is trying to look through both sides of the equation, right? On the front end, there is a need, somebody expresses with the job posting. And on the receiving end, the individual that wants to apply is trying to say, how do I make my resume look good for this position, right? That is a solution that has been going on for years with people trying to do the best match. But with AI, I think it produces another element, which is AI not only is just looking at the job posting. Today, job posting can be a fairly well described document, and then you can say, here are the skills I need, here are the things, the competencies I need, here is what they need to do. And then the individual has to then say, how do I fit that? Rather than that, I think where I see this going, which will simplify things for everybody, is to have on the front end, the job posting did not have the definition of the skills. Rather, it should say what is it that this person should do, or what does this person's job require them to do, right? The skills then are derived out of this description by AI, Gen AI. That's what we are trying to look at, to say, given a description, can we generate the skills that are needed? And don't not necessarily suffice it to the individual to say, here are the skills you should have to be able to meet the requirements of this particular posting. Now, doing that makes us kind of also let the candidate just provide their background and their history of what they've done, and not focus on what skills or what qualifications they have. Let AI look at the job descriptions or the work that you have done in the past from a historical perspective, extract again the things that you can do, and then match the two. So instead of trying to have humans try to say, do the matching, describe what you want, describe what you have done, and let the skills and the inferring occur with AI. That's what we are trying to focus on, to say, let the tool do what it is designed to do. You provide from your perspective what you have worked on. And as a manager, you describe what you want this individual to do. Don't focus on, I need 3 years of Java or 4 years of SQL, those kind of things we need to get away from, and let the tool identify it. In doing so, interesting things start happening, because the tool can then say, I have the skills that are needed to complete what you just described, but I can also infer related skills that may exist that you may not have even asked. So the enrichment of the data that can be derived is what we're trying to focus on. So that's one of the things that we are doing to simplify the experience from both sides. And to your point, we don't want to fully take away the decision making. What we try to do is, we try to say to a candidate, you might say, if there are 10 jobs, we try to match them and say, these two are your top two best matches. Vice versa, if you have 10 candidates for a posting, we can say, here is the ranking, or the how we best think this one is top candidate, second candidate, third candidate. And that's just a guideline. The manager still has to then look at saying, okay, maybe I'll analyze the first three. And if then I don't have to look at seven, making it very simple. Sometimes there are 100 candidates for one resume, for one posting. So simplify their experience from both directions. Which one should I apply to, and which one is the best fit for the position that we need? So those are the things we are looking at, saying how to simplify the experience.
And when it comes to the current state of HR management or HR cycles in a typical B2B SaaS environment, and also given your previous expertise being in HR, what are some of the factors in this typical, hiring, management, employee engagement, finalizing? This is taking a step forward in terms of what we just discussed. One is balancing the automation human aspect. The
Yeah,
other is overall HR management, the way we see it today in B2B tech, where
yeah,
everything is kind of becoming more automated,
yeah.
and people are wanting to scale and do a lot more do narrow work, quality
Correct.
work. So
Mhm.
in the middle of all of this, how is HR meant to give their entire function an overhaul effectively? What thoughts would you like to share here for B2B tech brands?
Yeah, okay. My mind may be a little bit of a vested and a opinionated point of view because I come in from the non-employee side of managing labor, right? Not the HR side. But what I see is this non-employee pool seems to be like a stepchild. It really doesn't sit with HR because they don't worry about the procurement aspects of it, but they do worry about some of the other legal tenure skills, etc. And then there's the procurement aspect of it, right? So I would love to see HR and procurement working together to cohesively make this work. It's something that saw that started to happen, but then kind of I think during the pandemic it slowed down again. But it would be nice for those two departments to work a lot more together. And the reason I say this is often there is a need for some kind of a mapping between whoever you bring in as a non-employee versus an employee that you have. Often they could be the same kind of a skilled person, the same type of work being done, but we talk about them in different terms, right? So in the non-employee pool or in the field glass solution, we don't call them skills. We used to call them qualifications, and we would base it on number of years. HR solution have it as skills and competencies. So what we have been working on is we need to unify that. So we now say stop doing the qualification the way we used to see it in the non-employee pool, but instead take the skills taxonomy from the HR solution, also bring it into Fieldglass. So we have consistency when you requisition something that maps to what your internal employee does, right? And then we can use it to say, for this level of skill, what are we paying as an employee? What are we paying as a non-employee? It allows you to look at as an HR individual to say, am I paying my employee the right way? Are we overpaying for the contract workers? What can we do to rationalize? And are we hiring too much in terms of non-employee workers? Should we be training our internal staff to be able to do those skills and not rely on more expensive resources from the outside? Those kind of things is what we need. But for that, the synergies need to come together from these two departments because one negotiates the skill and the price, one consumes based on how it maps to their internal hiring managers, right? So bringing that thing. And as you know, even if the non-employee comes in, they probably report to a common HR manager. So an employee with the same skill, a non-employee with the same skill on a particular project may be working for the same HR manager. So how do we kind of let them do this analysis in a unified way? I think that's what we focus on.
Interestingly, while HR tech, impacts all of this, impacts how all of this is managed in the future. We love to hear more from you about some of the most interesting innovators in the space that you've been following from the global HR tech market. Those you'd like to, give a quick shout out to, and also what trends do you foresee influencing the HR tech landscape in the near future as we watch the space? What are your thoughts on future predictions?
From a innovator perspective, one of the companies that I have admired is Capgemini. They use Fieldglass, and they are doing something that we like seeing other customers do. Right? They've kind of taken the Fieldglass consumption of the external workforce that they're hiring through Fieldglass. They use that to do the things I was describing. Right? What are the skills we are procuring? What should we be paying? Where are they available? they use that to take that back into their HR system and then say, this is where we need to kind of increase, or this is where we need to add people in our company, because that's where the demand seems to be. And we have been staffing them with external workforce. So they've leveraged Fieldglass in a very nice way to kind of make their business decisions on hiring employees and where they should be employed and so on. So love that. Then the other innovators that I would talk about, I won't necessarily talk. I'll talk about the space to your second point, right? Where do I see things happening? Direct sourcing is a big thing that is happening in our space. Direct sourcing is the ability to take somebody that you worked with as an employee or non-employee and are no longer with the company. How do we stay connected with them so that next time we have something that requires their skill, we can reach out to them directly and maintain a connection with them, more like a candidate relationship management with them, so that you can quickly staff and get the people that you know that are familiar with your company and what you do and what you need them to do quickly into the solution. That is something that is expanding rapidly, and it's expanding in multiple countries in different categories of labor. So it's something that we are keeping an eye on. We are integrating all of them to offer our customers a ability to use direct sourcing very, very elegantly using the Fieldglass solution. The other part that is going on to your point is I see a trend going from a role-based hiring to more of a skill-based hiring, where instead of saying I need a Java developer, you're describing the skills that you need, kind of contradictory to the first one I said, where from a description we can infer skills. That's what we want to do. We don't want people to say, here is a skill I want, but describe what you want and we'll derive the skill, and you'll go to the skills-based hiring. Skill-based hiring has become very common on the HR side now, or people are trying to go to that versus a T level or some level and a position description. It is more about skill-based. Here's the skills I need to do something, but let Gen AI power that for you. That's what I see coming up. Total workforce management, always a top of mind topic, right? Total workforce management is something that I think we can innovate a lot more. We can do the basics, but there's so much more advanced things we can do. So those are the areas that I watch and follow from an innovation perspective that probably is occurring in the HR tech space.
Absolutely, Vish. I think that's all we have time for in today's conversation, but there's so much more we'd love to talk to you about, definitely. So we're going to have another session featuring you and your thoughts and HR tech perspectives down the line. But until then, we wish you and your team at SAP Fieldglass all the very best.
Thank you, Parama. It was fun doing this. Yep.